Hola YouTube. So for this video, we're going to be looking at conjugating your stem changing verbs or boot verbs in Spanish. If maybe your teacher is just now teaching you how to do this, maybe you're confused, I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So if you're in Spanish, probably 1, you're going to be seeing some verbs in your vocabulary page that might look something like this. Okay, so if you see this in your book, cerrar, and then it says E with a colon IE, that means you're looking at what's called the stem changing verb or a boot verb. And I'm going to explain how you conjugate this verb right now in the present tense. So I'm going to go ahead and make up my usual chart. If your teacher doesn't make charts like this, I am sorry. I know some of our new textbooks do not lay your verbs out like this, but this really does make it easier. So this is how I'm going to do it. So the stem of a verb is what's left over after you remove the ending. So normally when you conjugate a verb, you're going to take off your AR, ER, or IR first. That's gone now. And then what's left, that CERR, that's my stem. So I'm going to go ahead and label that for you. So that's the stem. Okay, and then these verbs are called stem changing verbs. So that stem is going to change, but only in certain areas. So when I write out my chart right here, I'm going to change this stem, that E right there, to an IE in these 4 spots. I'll put a number on there for you. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 2 spots will not see that change. So I'm going to change that E to an IE. So I'll have CIERR. And that's going to repeat for the other 1, 2, for the 2, 3, and 4. So I'll have CIERR, CIERR, and CIERR. Okay, and then these 2 over here will not see that change. So these will just be the normal stem, CERR, CERR. Hopefully by now you've already learned how to conjugate your AR verbs. The endings for the AR verbs are, I'll put them right here really small for you. Okay, they're O, os, a, amos, ice, and on. Okay, so now I'm going to take those endings and I'm going to apply those to the end of this verb cerrar, which means to close. So the yo form of the verb to close in Spanish will be cierro. The to form will be cierras. The he, she form cierra. The they form will be cierran. The nosotros will be cerramos. And then this one will be, the vosotros from Spain will be cerráis. Okay, if you haven't noticed this pattern yet, these 3 right here, depending on what verb you're doing, are always very, very similar, right? This one right here is the same as that one, just minus the S, and this one over here is the same as this one, but with an N on the end of it. And that pattern, if you haven't noticed that yet, is a pattern you're going to see for pretty much all these verbs in the present tense, with the exceptions of some that are really irregular. So they're stem changing verbs because I changed the stem. And then I said earlier, I also call them boot verbs, and I'm going to show you why right now. So it's these 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that have that change, right? I'm going to make a super fancy boot for you here. So if I draw a boot around my verb chart, then you'll notice that it's the 4 that are inside the boot that have that change. Hence the term boot verbs. The ones that are outside of this quote-unquote boot verb don't have that stem change to them. So I will often call them boot verbs. Some people might just call them stem changing verbs, which is the technical and probably more correct term to use. I'm going to go ahead and show you right now another stem changing verb, just as soon as I can find my towel. Here it is. Okay, so there are different stem changing verbs. That one was an E to IE verb. Let's look at one where the O changes to a UE. So we'll go with dormir, which means to sleep. And if you look that up like in your book, it would say O-U-E. So again, I'll make my chart. And then I'm going to change this O over here to a UE in those same 4 positions like I did for cerrar. So I'm going to have D-U-E-R-M, like that. And that's going to go for all of these 4 right here. And then these 2 over here will not have that O to UE change. So I'll just have D-O-R-M and D-O-R-M. Okay, now before we conjugate the rest of this verb, do keep in mind that we're working with an IR verb now. So the endings will only be the same for the yo form. So I sleep will be duermo. You sleep will be duermes. He or she is duerme. We sleep will be dormimos. The vosotros, you guys in Spain, sleep will be dormis. And then the ellos form will be duermen. Again, if it helps you, to make that boot, to remind you that these are the four where the O changes to a UE. We're going to do one more verb that is an ER verb, just so you can see an ER, because we have AR, ER, and IR verbs in Spanish. If at any point you need to write these down, you can just pause the video, rewind, and then take down notes if you need to. Let's do preferir, and there's a couple of reasons I'm going to do preferir. All right. Preferir, which you can probably guess means to prefer. Oh, sorry, I was writing the other ones like this. Okay, so preferir, which means to prefer, the E is going to change to an IE. But before I do that, maybe you're asking yourself, uh-oh, there are two E's in the verb preferir, so which one do I change? It's always going to be the E closest to the end of the verb, unless it's an ER verb. So like, for example, if I take the verb entender, which is also an E to IE boot verb, there are three E's. So it's going to be the E closest to the end. Unless it's an ER verb, then it's not this ER, because that ER, remember, gets removed when I conjugate the verb. So it's that E right there that's going to change to an IE. On preferir, it's the E closest to the end, which is this one. So that's the E that's going to change to an IE when I write out my conjugation for the verb preferir. If you want to try and do this by yourself, you could pause the video and jot it down. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and do it also. Okay, so these four inside my boot. I'm so good at drawing. Okay, they're all going to start with Prefier, and that's going to repeat for the inside the boot. Now these ones will not have that change. We'll just have Prefer, Prefer, and then we've got Prefier. And then we'll just add the endings. Now this is, I was going to do an ER verb. Oh well. Okay, so we got prefiero, prefieres, prefiere, preferimos, preferís, and prefieren. If I'd done entender, the only difference between an ER and an IR verb for the endings are over here in these two. The nosotros ending is an EMOS, and the vosotros is an E with an accent mark over it, IS. That's the difference between the ER and the IR verbs. So there are a whole bunch of different boot verbs or stem-changing verbs in Spanish. Those are just a few that can get you started on learning how to conjugate them. If you have questions, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Also, I'll go ahead and put a link in the description of the video of another instructional video where I teach you how to do these, just in case you want another explanation or some extra practice. Okay, hasta luego, gracias.